Hey, we had an interesting day yesterday. At least I found it interesting. It's funny. In the morning, we had live with Brian at the Open and Norm, and Brian was saying, "Geez, pretty easy morning." And I'll always say that it's easy if you're looking at the right things, and you confidently take the right trades. I found it a little more challenging, but there were great trades. In fact, my best trading happened probably after 10:30 yesterday when I found some good opportunities on Tesla. So let's take a look at that. We'll look at two things real quick here. Tesla, I thought was great yesterday. A great trending trade through the day yesterday. We could see here. Let me just 5-minute chart is probably what we need to look at for yesterday. And we can see that after that initial pop up, Tesla dropped nicely, and throughout the morning, it was around, actually, I guess I lied. It was around 10:15 or so. This little reverse ABCD, I found an opportunity to get in. I got about $10 on it, was pretty happy, as usual, until, of course, Tesla dropped another $20, $25 as it does. I should have known better. You'd think I'd know by now. Anyway, so that was one. The other one that I know was on everybody's radar was work. Right out of the gate, work just took off and had a good run up until about noon, after which it sort of just chopped around. We'll see what happens today. I notice it's back on our list, so we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But work is Slack Technologies is one that may be interesting here today. Norm, what you were trading something different yesterday, though, weren't you?
Apple was beautiful at the Open for a breakout.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at Apple and I didn't believe you, to be honest. Or I just didn't believe the stock would go up so strongly. It was trending down into the Open so much, and then it popped, and you took a fantastic, an entry with high confidence, and I mean, no question, right? I mean, it played for you very well. In fact, even at this pullback to VWAP, because it went through VWAP so much, I didn't actually think that it was going to pull back above, but I was wrong on both counts, and it was a great trading stock, which Apple doesn't always sort of trend for you well, but there it was. So, all right, we're good on YouTube, I trust.
Yep.
We started out there. Fantastic. Okay.
Yep, you're good.
All right, so let's get started, guys, because we're running a little bit late, obviously, having gotten started late. Let's see what's on the list today, because there's a few things that I wasn't looking at earlier this morning. Starting with Sava at the top of the list here. Not familiar. Cassava Sciences. Let's go back to 1 minute here. I'm not loving the pre-market. It's okay, but boy, it's really sort of jumping up here. It's up about 10%, it looks like, this morning. Norm, have you had a chance to look to see if there's any news?
Yeah, it's a low float. TI has 16 million. Finviz has just under 15 million. They are up on publishing phase 2 study results in the Journal of Prevention of Alzheimer's Disease. I have not read such published work, but that's what's popping them up this morning.
You don't regularly read the medical journals?
If I did, I forgot about it.
I can't say that I ever read them myself. So, okay, all right. So we've got positive phase 2 results. It's a possibility. I'm not loving the pre-market, but there might be an option, especially if it's able to break out of this consolidation range. For me, would say around 950 is where it's got to get above. So we'll see if that happens. Next on the list. Oh, wait a second. What just jumped up here? How did I miss that? TMUS.
Oh, it's been going up. It's been going number 1, number 2, back and forth. So
I see. All right. So I know that this, I believe, is all the news with TMUS and Sprint. I'm surprised Sprint is not on here. But
Sprint is up. I think it's ATR is not large enough. And I'm going to apologize in advance, guys. We're going to have to fly through this faster than we normally do because of the late start in the large cappers list, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is the rumor is that the merger is approved. Is that just a rumor, Norm, or is it fact? Do you know?
No, it's not a rumor. What a federal court has approved the merger with T-Mobile. So both T-Mobile and Sprint this morning are up.
Okay. All right. I'm going to add Sprint here. We'll come back and look at it for setting levels potentially. I noticed it had a ton of volume so far this morning. I mean, a ridiculous volume, in fact. 34
Yep.
million shares already traded on it. So there's no question it's in play. We'll see what happens. All right. Moving on. Dish. Dish Networks. Is this a sympathy play or do they have news of their own?
I have not looked into it because it's not hitting my scanner. Actually, it actually is hitting my scanner. I
Yeah.
apologize. Skip this, go to the next one, and we'll come back because I have not
Okay.
looked into Dish yet. It just came up.
Will do. Luckin has been on and off our list a lot recently. It's actually gapping up, which keeps surprising me when Luckin is showing some strength here, thinking that it would be more affected by the coronavirus and, of course, all the closures across China. Up 7% so far this morning. 3%. I didn't find any news earlier, but Norma, if you did,
No,
then
there's still no news. I think this is just out of coronavirus. There not being any worse news coming out. Um, it's kind of bounced off a level. If you pull out on a daily, it is forming what appears to be a bit of a head and shoulders pattern. It's on the right shoulder right now, so we'll see if it holds or if that breaks down or if it pops from here with the pattern.
yeah, yeah, I see that. It's a little bit of an ugly head and shoulders, but you're right, it is there. So, all right, moving on. Roku.
If you want to go, so if you want to go back to Dish,
Dish,
I
yeah.
think it is moving. I don't see any individual news off of it. I think it has to do with fallout from the Sprint T-Mobile merger.
I'm surprised to see them up because I don't know how that's a benefit to them, but
I think
anyway.
it limits the players in the field. I think is what it probably is.
Okay. All right. Well, there could be some anti-competition legislation that'll come in that maybe Dish can take advantage of. So we'll see. Anyways, we play the technicals, right? So we'll see what happens. Roku,
Yep.
again, another one on and off our list. It's funny because we were just saying yesterday morning, hey, not really a good trader, and sort of been choppy the last little while. And then yesterday, if I look back, it actually put in not a bad day, at least not a bad open. Big move off the open. It made some moves. I didn't find them easily predictable, but looking back, it looks okay. But in the moment, the price action was pretty choppy around VWAP. Today, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's certainly on the list so far. Is there any news moving this, or is this just Roku being Roku?
No, I think it's purely technical. I haven't seen any specific news to Roku, but on a daily, it's bouncing off the lower end of a trend line, and it held its 200 moving average on this bounce. So they've got earnings on the 13th. So what's that, Thursday after the market closes? Um, and who knows? Maybe somebody's accumulating and knows something. We'll see.
Somebody surely knows something that we'll see. All right, yes. GT, that's one I have not seen before, I don't think. Oh, Goodyear Tire, that's probably why. They're not usually on the list. Barely above our ATR target here at 51 cents. Boy, it looks like they've been beaten down over the last couple of months. Gapping down again today. Did they have earnings?
They had bad earnings, yes.
Okay.
They missed their earnings per share estimate was 45. They were at 19 cents, and their revenues fell short as well. So,
sorry guys, I wasn't displaying the chart. The pre-market is not looking great. I'm not surprised, although actually, now that I look at it, it's a NASDAQ stock. I was expecting it to be traded on the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, but that being said, while it has the volume, it looks like a lot of it was sitting in this one candle. Well, maybe not. I don't see many volume candles. Again, not liking the pre-market. I'll leave it on the list for now. Work, no surprise. So we mentioned Work because of the play yesterday. The rumor was that, hey, IBM has deployed it across their organization, and they're, 180,000 employees strong, maybe more. I've lost count. But and then Work came out this morning, I know, and sort of said, well, they actually already were a customer. We're not changing our forecast.
yeah.
That's what I heard. Is there any more to it?
No, I mean that's what it is. They came out with IBM news that wasn't news, I guess. So maybe the algos didn't realize They're already a client?
I don't know. Yeah, it's. Anyways, it broke like big news yesterday. Again, there's a big difference between having IBM as a client and having them actually deployed to all staff. But hey, maybe we have some IBM employees can tell us, have they actually deployed it globally, and are you using it? That'd be interesting to know. But anyways, work was likely to be in play today because we'll see what happens. It's already lost about half of the gains it made yesterday. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to keep it on the list. Moving on, we've got UA and UAA. Now, I usually watch UAA because it tends to get the larger volume. So let me just change the symbol here. And I know that they had news.
Yeah, they had earnings. Their earnings per share came in right in line with estimates. Their revenues were just a little bit light, but there's some concerns over production because of the virus too, and I think they were looking for a beat here.
Yeah, well, it's you could tell this was in a consolidation range for a while here. Big drop out of that, so definitely one in play. I'd actually set some levels early this morning before I expected to be on here, so we'll review those in just a few minutes. Last one on the list, if I type it properly, MYO. It's the big loser so far this morning, 36% down, a loss of, wow, ATR of $6 on a $7 stock? What the hell? Is that
Yeah, this is a micro float, a 500,000 share float, and it's been pumped and dumped. So it moved from around $5 or $6 to 40, and now it's come back to earth.
Yeah, look at this, so guys.
I won't be trading this. It's garbage.
I'm going to expand the daily chart just to make the point here, if I can. Look at where this thing was just a couple of days ago. It's even worse than that, $6. If I go back just a day before that, so on the 30th of January, it was trading at 30 cents. 30 cents, all the way up to $30 and back down again. Norm is absolutely right. This is not something we really should be looking at. And based on the float, when you said a micro float, yeah, less than 1 million shares available. I mean, that's not something I want to get messed up in, quite frankly. So I'm going to delete it off my list. Okay, so that wasn't so bad.
Pump and dump that.
Yeah, I mean it really is, and it can move. If you're good at it, guys, then you can go for it. If you're not, sort of expert in trading those, I would not suggest you pay a lot of attention to it. So, that being said, normally what we do now is we look at announcements, because we always have some good announcements. There's always stuff going on here at Bear Bull. And I don't have an announcement sheet, so Norm, hopefully you can wing it.
Yeah, I can just rattle it off, Peter. I apologize for that. Give me 1 second here. All right, guys. So sorry about not having an announcement screen up today. If you have any questions, you can either post it in the YouTube chat or the room, and I'll answer it for you. But we've got our Valentine's Day discount currently going on, 40% off single payment lifetime membership plan. Use the promo code LOVE, LOVE. To get that discount. AB will also post the links there. BBT forum membership, guys.
Sorry, I can't resist. Every time I was announcing it, he can't help but saying love like love. It's
like a DJ on sexy radio voice. Even though I don't have the sexy radio voice that you do. Let's see here. BBT forum membership. So guys, this does not apply to anybody that already has some kind of membership with BBT. So if you already are a member, don't do this. But you can sign up for a forum membership if you're not, and it's a free membership and doesn't convert to anything or whatever. But you can use the resource in our forums. Everything from Kyle's hotkeys that we talk about all the time that a number of people use, to DAS resources, post about meetups and everything else. Because I'll get into meetups in a minute, but AB will post a link and then you can RSVP for it, stuff like that. In the room, we have changed membership if you're not, and it's a free. A number of people are trading options in the room. and we're talking more and more about them. So we have changed that over from a redundant tab to option specific. Upcoming success webinars tomorrow night. Mike Bellafiore, SMB Capital, will be joining us at, it's not tomorrow night, it's 4 p.m. In the Lifetime Room. Can't wait to hear from him. We interviewed him last year. Just terrific guy, really good trader, and head of a prop firm in New York, well-known S&B Capital. So looking forward to that. Then the following 2 weeks after that, we're going to have Ed Martin from Average Joe Trader doing a two-part series on trend trading. Speaking of meetups, a week from Friday, February 21st, we're going to have our New York City meetup. Number of us will be there. And then February, Andrew's also trying to get to Dubai. Maybe he'll post the link. You can check it out in the forum. If you're watching us on YouTube, haven't been in the room, you can do so at a discount with the promo code PREMARKET24. It does not auto-renew or turn into any other kind of memberships. Back to you, Peter.
All right, look at us motoring through. Guys, I'm just checking my gappers list. You may have noticed there's a few things that I'm skipping over for a couple of reasons. I have my list set to only 30 cents on the ATR, so I end up getting a few more things. Every once in a while, you get something good. Most of the time, though, frankly, it's just more chaff to go through. So like Valet, for example, is on here. It's a foreign stock, mining stock, both of which mean that it doesn't tend to trade in a way that I find easy to trade, and most of us tend to avoid them. I see EQNR. I'm not familiar with EQNR, but it's a manufacturing company of some sort. Let me just take a quick peek at it. Yeah, pre-market is terrible, so not something to look at. And I think we did catch everything else. So let's take a look at the NASDAQ gainers and losers and the most active, just in case there's anything else on there that we should take a look at. Top of the list here this morning seems to be NYMT. Wow, it's got volume, but it seems to be all algo volume. Look at that. That's the 1 minute tells you clearly when it's trading within sort of a 1 penny range with candles. That's computers trading it. ONTX, it's been on the list before. That was fairly, I thought it was a recent IPO, but yeah, it's a penny stock. Not interested in that. TMUS we looked at. CODX. Now, this came up yesterday afternoon. I know it was being announced on Benzinga. And for those of you that aren't in our chat room, we have a live Benzinga feed that gives us news sort of live by voice, and it allows us to stay right on top of things. And they announced CODX because they have, I guess, a coronavirus drug that's sort of been, I won't say approved. I guess it was getting some approval process being followed, that it might be cleared. I don't know if that's passed or not, but it sort of popped up yesterday afternoon, dropped back down. I'm not seeing a lot. Pre-market is remarkably flat here, but it could be something that moves later. I don't know, Norm. I know it's not the type of stock you normally look at. I don't know if there's any news out there in CODX to validate what I just said, but or anything new. Probably not. But I may just add it to my list here just in case it does something interesting, because it was worth looking at off of the announcement yesterday. So I'll just add it to my list. All right, what else we got? ADXS. No, terrible pre-market. Don't like the look of that. And by the way, somebody was asking in the room a very good question. Sometimes we talk about a good pre-market or a smooth pre-market. What does that mean? So let me tell you quickly what we're looking for. When we're looking at pre-market activity, I want to see normally steady movement. It should look more or less especially on a 5-minute chart, like the market is open. You want to see consistent volume, so the volume isn't coming in just big block trades, which means it only happened once, and then you've got like almost no volume for the other candles. You also want to see candles that are moving fairly steadily. ADXS, for example, you can tell these candles that are basically flat tells me that this is volume that traded sort of a no differential, right? So it's not really good smooth volume. This looks like, again, it's probably some computers trading it. And, S, on the other hand, as people are pointing out, if you look at Sprint is trading in a way that absolutely, look at that price action. Like that essentially looks like the markets are open. So Sprint is trading, I mean, let's face it, it's got 45 million shares traded so far. Like, it's trading like an open stock. That's an example of a great pre-market. So that's more or less what we're looking for. And then you sort of have to judge for the stuff that's in between. AMD, for example, which is on our active list, is often here. We know it's often active. It always gets a lot of pre-market volume. But its motion on some days can be good and other days not so good. So let me see if I can call it up here. See, today it's sort of moving okay. We've got some flattening candles here that show low volume. And if I look at the actual volume on a minute by minute basis, we got 10,000 shares that minute, only 1,000 shares this minute. So it's a little spotty. AMD would be in between the two that I just showed you. Gives you an idea, okay? All right, so let's move on to things. REXN, I know I took a look at. It's on the NASDAQ gainers. Pre-market action, though, I didn't like. It wasn't good. It's a very low float stock. I know that they had a new deal that's driving this, so there is a little bit of news, but being a low float, it's not something I want to look at. My PC is running slow, so I apologize, guys. The updates are slow. GNPX is on my list. Yeah, again, dollar penny stock almost, right? It's trading at $1.50, not something I love. AMKR is here. Wow, look at that. Now there's an example of terrible pre-market volume, right? Like, it's not really in play. It might have, it's got 77,000 shares, but this is obviously that's not tradable, right? What you see right there. And I'll look at just one more, IDXG. Waiting for the chart to come up here, and I'm not seeing anything. It looks terrible because I got nothing. There we go. Okay, yeah, so that's why, because there was actually very little, if any, pre-market activity, which is why it looks so bad. All right, so with that, guys, I'm just going to close a couple of things, hopefully to increase the performance of my PC. And we will get to setting some levels. All right, we're 7 minutes after 9. We should have time to set some levels here. All right, let's go back to the top of our list. Just going to do one last scan here, make sure that there's nothing else that jumped up. I see Crowd jumped up here, CRWD. Let's take a peek at CrowdStrike. I haven't seen it on the list in a while, I don't think. See if I've got something interesting going on with Crowd. I don't really like the pre-market. It might have jumped up here because it's got over 100,000 shares, but the pre-market isn't that exciting. I didn't see any news on it earlier unless something new has come out. I'll leave it here at the bottom, but we'll only set some levels if we have time. All right, so let's get to setting some levels here. So Sava said probably, I'm just watching the pre-market activity here. And you can see that the high of the pre-market is at $8.95, so it definitely has to get over 9 for it to be interested. If I look at a daily chart, I'm seeing that it had spiked here earlier at 975. And then what is this spike here? 926. So I'm going to set a level here sort of at that 925 level. I'd want to see it above that, frankly, before I'd be really interested. And we know it's going to be very strong if it gets up above this 1050 level on Sava. If it drops down, well, frankly, probably wouldn't watch it whatsoever, but there's a clear level here where it had some support at $6.85, and I think that sets a good range for Sava. Now, TMUS and Sprint are in this merger. They're popping up here. Let's take a peek at TMUS. I'm actually surprised. Usually when you get a merger or an acquisition, you get one that pops up and one that drops down. Here we're seeing both the partners in this merger pop up, which is very interesting to me. In fact, it looks like TMUS is at all-time highs. So unless it had a high a long time ago here, let me just go back a couple of years, bring in some data, and see what I can get. Yeah, it really looks like it's at very much all-time highs. So if that's the case, we have no levels to set, guys. It's far and above anything that I can set, and all we can do is watch and see what the price action brings us today. If I look at the pre-market, though, I'm seeing definitely an area of resistance that turned in support right here, $92. See how it bounced off of this and then used it as support right here. So I'm just going to set something at 92, and then I already have marked the high of the pre-market here at 93.20, well 28 officially, but in that range you can see it's bounced off of it several times. So we'll see what happens. Sprint. Jesus, is it the same story for Sprint? No. So Sprint has had higher highs. So this gives us information here off the weekly. Let me go to a daily chart and bring in that data. So if I just go back here on Sprint, we can see that it's had a couple of areas where definitely it found some resistance. It was moving higher at $8.90-ish. Again up here at 9.20, and then again at 9.43. I'm going to set all three of those because it's so very strong today. We'll see what happens, but that's a long way to go. That being said, more currently, we can see how it spiked up here to a high of $8.02, and then over here at 7.90. So I'm going to set a level at 7.90-ish, so I get early warning if it gets up there. We're sitting at 8.34, so we'll see if it can pop there, and I will certainly set something right here at the high peak, which is $8.06. So 8.05 is a good level for me. So that's good for Sprint. If it drops down, if it drops down from this level, I can see where, frankly, it's interesting here, because 545 to me seems an area of support down there. I don't know. I mean, it looks very strong. I don't think it will, but you never know, right? So we'll be ready. Dish. We said probably a sympathy play, but we'll quickly set some levels here at Dish. The high, this little spike here was at 44.65. I definitely want to level up there, 44.66. That's good for me. I can also see the previous day's high and low, you can see, are already set in here because it's been chopping in a fairly narrow range for most of the last couple weeks, with the exception of these couple of spikes. So I'm going to mark the high of this one at 38.45. And, oh, there's a gap play in here. I like the gaps because often it plays into those. We'll see. $40.87 is the peak here, this little gap. So we'll see if that comes into play. All right, LK is our next one. You can see I've got some levels set off the daily. $40, clear level here, right? Bounced off of it here, bounced off of it here. As Norm said, sort of putting in a head and shoulders, you can see in LK. I also marked the high at 50. I know that it spiked above that by a good $1.40 almost. But 50 and 40, it seems to be using these full whole dollar levels, especially the $10 marks, as support or resistance. So we'll see. Right now it's sitting obviously at 37.90, below that. So if it gets up to 40, we know it's like, I'm willing to bet it would run a few dollars, like $4 or $5 above that if it does hit 40, but we will see. Below that, I have level set at $34, and then at $33.75, where you can actually see it hit some lows of the previous days, which coincides with other areas. You can see where it bounced. See resistance here, became support here. So lock-in, we've got a couple of levels set. Roku has been choppy. Actually, look at this descending pattern. Lower highs, lower high, lower high, moving its way down. So I'll mark this high just to see if it does get there. Today, Roku is gapping up slightly, but it's definitely, in my mind, on a descending pattern here. So I'm going to mark the low of this candle, which was at $20.35. So let me just put a marker there. And it happens to coincide, look at this, almost very closely with the moving average, a 200 moving average, which I will mark on the daily as well at 120.84. So that gives me a couple of levels on Roku. GT, Goodyear Tire, said it's certainly been in a downtrend. I had some previous levels marked where I must have been watching it before. Well, that was a solid pattern that it traded off of, but not something I've regularly watched. We're down here near the lows, so I've got to look for something lower. Certainly found support down here at about $11. I'm going to mark that. And then just the low of this candle was at 10.60. 74, which I will mark as well. Other than that, you can see the last couple of days is actually playing. Notice, again, we mark these levels because they're significant. See how it consolidated back here September, October? Exactly where it's been consolidating here in February. Now that we've broken below it, we could expect it potentially to get down to this level where it consolidated again back August to September. So we'll see what happens on GT. Work we talked about, again, with this spike up yesterday, big move yesterday. We'll see if it pulls back or holds some of those gains. I absolutely want to mark, whoops, the high of this candle, which is 24.26. I'm just going to change my spot for this, 24.26. I think that may be significant. Down here, you can see the previous couple of days I have a marker, but I'm going to mark another one right here at 23.57-ish. I can see it sort of bounced off of that a couple of times. And then if it really sort of gets some momentum to the downside, it may go all the way to $20. I can sort of see it absolutely bounced off of that several times. So around $20 would be where, again, if it really just goes, I don't expect it to, but where that move might stop. All right. Under Armour, again, some disappointing numbers for it. You can see I was working earlier pre-market to set some levels. I put one at 675 because it was the low of these candles and this whole consolidation area. You could argue there's potentially another level right here around 17s. If you take out the wicks, it's certainly consolidated around 17, so an area to watch. And then I had another one at 1650, which I took off of earlier daily. See how it spiked right down here back in December 2018. So those are my low levels for this. Obviously, the bottom of this consolidation is an area to watch, as well as the bottom of this candle at 1954, if it regains some of what it lost. But it is looking weak right now. Last couple of guys, CODX we talked about. This is all rumors as much as it is news, so you got to be very careful on this. I had set some levels previously, but frankly, I don't like them a lot. In fact, I'm going to clear all of my levels and say, look, there's one potentially here at 350. There's the high of yesterday at 4.25, and then there's a low consolidation at roughly 250 here. Other than that, I'm not likely to trade this unless the news gets very strong, like that they've got a virus cure that's going to be deployed significantly, endorsed by the WHO or something like that. Otherwise, I don't want to get caught in that news cycle, but we'll see what happens with it. CRWD, we had mentioned, again, still don't like the pre-market. Sort of at an interesting level, though. If it does come up, there could be an area where it would stop at 69, 67, or even a little higher here at 72. We'll see if that happens. And that's about it. Those are the levels I've got. All right. Whew. I'll take a breath. We're running a little late, but we did start late. Last, I'll ask the room and you guys on YouTube anything that that you really want us to take a look at that we haven't already mentioned.
Hasbro and Dish. You already have Dish, but Hasbro.
Hasbro. What's the symbol for Hasbro? HB?
HAS.
HAS, okay.
HAS.
Yeah, all right. Let's take a look at now. What's is this an earnings play?
It is an earnings play. They beat, as we all have discussed, over the last couple of years, they've been hammered just by Amazon and then Toys R Us closing and everything else. So,
okay, so I assume that they posted reasonable numbers because they are up 7%.
Yep.
Low volume, guys, hasn't hit our volume, so I don't really like the pre-market, but it is, well, no, sorry, it's NASDAQ again. Well, again, surprising me. All right, well, we'll see what happens. I have tried to trade Hasbro in the past. Hasbro and Mattel sometimes move together on the same days because they tend to announce around the same time. Neither one I've really enjoyed trading, to be honest. But you can see I just set some levels, 206.25. One up here at 209.85 because I saw this drop here back in August. It bounced off of that, so that what was support may prove to be resistance. And then up here at 114. If things really go crazy, I've got a level at 123, but I don't. Hasbro's not typically one that would go that far unless they've got some new huge blockbuster toy or something and they're radically upping their forecast. But unless that happens, yeah, it's probably. It'll move a couple of bucks, but unlikely it'll get up 20. Okay, guys, look, thank you so much for bearing with us. We apologize for the late start. I know that Carlos disappointed he was not able to make it this morning, but all's good, and he will be back tomorrow. Norm, as always, thanks a lot for giving me a hand here. It was a quick one.
Thank you for filling in at the last second, Peter.
No worries. My pleasure. So, guys, have a great trading day. Trade safe. Make sure to stick to your rules, follow your strategies, and don't be chasing things on momentum. And hopefully you'll have a green day. So take care. Trade well. And for those in the room, we'll be back live trading. Norm and Brian will be taking us live through the market open. Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning,
Hey.
Peter.